This is a reading on the royals, and more especially the Cambridges, William and Catherine. Okay, so I want to see what's going on in the House of Windsor. And I'm always, of course, being drawn recently to the energies of the Cambridges, Catherine and William. So I want to see what they're up to. Fighting is what I'm getting. I'm getting a lot of like they don't understand why things have not gone their way. There are many things that many articles that they had planned to send to the papers, like rumors to start flying about Harry and Meghan. And they're wondering why those rumors haven't settled yet in people's minds, why people are not buying it too much. Yeah. Okay. So you can see here with the cowries, like it's all well lined up. Uh, Almost like a train track, right? Uh, for them, for the Sussexes. Yeah, like literally like a train track for the Sussexes. Um, so I'm just asking the cards, what are we to expect with the Cambridges? What is going on? So a bit like Meghan Markle, like as I said before, when Meghan started with the oops. Yeah, when Megan started with the her shenanigans within the royal family, right? Um, yeah, and everyone was wondering what was going on with her and why she was doing those things and antagonizing things and things that would shock the public. So that's what I'm seeing as well for Catherine and William. Them wondering why this cake, oops, this cake that they've been feeding the public hasn't been eaten, why it isn't working. Uh Why? So these two cards here, right? Why this cake they've been feeding the public, and the cake is lies. And so this is the public, unsuspecting, well, the public that's supposed to eat it with wings. Once the public starts eating it and eating it, eventually, if they finish eating it, they transform into this another creature with wings, like a full bird, right? A full bird. And so for this card coming up, definitely the public has already bought into some of those lies. So hence the wings that have already started sprouting up. And then the public is definitely, I do see part of the public buying into it again. And there's going to be a lot of rumors being thrown about the Sussexes divorce and all of that. But like I've said before, they're already divorced anyway, so it's really like rumors that are not exactly untrue, but are not exactly true either, because within the context, like let's say the Cambridges put out some rumor that the Sussex are about to divorce. Well, it's not untrue in the sense that there's divorce attached to the Sussexes, but it is untrue the messaging they try to pass across, which is this time period is when they're divorcing, which is just not true. Because from what I've seen before, again, they divorced way back then, way back then. They've just been together for the sake of, well, the marriage and the commitment to the royal institution. And one of the reasons why the public hasn't really bought much into those rumors is because a lot of the public, or at least like the energies that are surrounding the public, is this kind of energy, mermaid energy. So like a mermaid energy is very much a mermaid is underwater. Or she can be above water, it doesn't matter, but like a mermaid is related to water. And then this is the air. energy. William and Catherine have turned into air. They've become air. They used to be water energy, and I've talked about that before, like Cancer type energy, but not anymore. They've transformed into air and air energy. So obviously, this has a lot of implications for the way that you would see them in going about in public. No longer will they have that charming spirit, charming atmosphere, because that's what water is. Like, I mean, if we have to compare, water is very much more approachable than air. Like, you'd much, you would much, a bird flies high in the sky, uh, except it decides to come down, right? And you'll see them and be able to touch them. And then these creatures here, they don't even need to be found. You can just go into the water and they'll be there. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. Birds are there, birds are present, right? We've seen birds in real time, we've seen birds, so we know that they exist, but they are inaccessible compared to mermaids, who not a lot of people have seen these creatures, but you would expect that if you go in the water, they could be accessible. So it's like the teasing, the energy of tease, like the teasing that birds do. Birds tease a lot more than mermaids do. Like mermaids, they'll hardly appear, right? They're almost like mythical creatures that not everyone has seen. But birds, so therefore you could expect nothing from them except that they could appear if you go in water. Whereas when it comes to birds, birds are very much present. They're as present as a human being, but then they act like an absentee father who is there but who is not so there, right? So that's the thing with the royals. The royals need that ambiguous energy that I've just described, which is carried much more by air creatures than water. Because water is heavy. Water can be heavy. I mean, compared to air, right? Water can be transformed into ice. It can be transformed into hot water, like lava, lava type of temperature, right? So it's flexible. It's a lot more flexible for those who can relate to it. And what the royals do not want to do, the Cambridges do not want to do, Catherine and William, is to look to or to have any semblance of being relatable. They don't want that anymore. They've dumped it. They've dumped it. Okay. Uh yeah, so they've gone over to the other side, air energy, air energy. So let me look into air energy, because I did this before for a Meghan Markle reading, looking at the elements that they've adopted, air. So when I threw the cowries, one dropped, one fell down. So that's the departure from water to air. So it means, again, I beg your pardon. In my readings, I'm definitely on the spiritual side. I won't deny the spiritual realm, no matter how much others are trying to deny it, right? And not just, I won't just stay on the normal, like general information that people have about the spiritual realm. No, I'll see things from the spiritual, because that's exactly what they are. I won't pretend that it's all physical and this is what it is, and just like tiptoe around, okay, they are spiritual, but this is just about, like someone said the other day, popularity, and stuff like, if someone is a demon, they don't care about being popular. Like, oh, they don't care if they're wearing flowery dresses and all of that. Like, I mean, not that kind of popular, not that kind of popularity that's connected to being liked or being, no, no. If they want popularity, if anything, there's a spiritual meaning behind it, which is power, They want power, spiritual power, definitely. So any popularity that they seem to want is merely as a result of the power that they want to gain in the spiritual realm. That is very, very much present. So I won't ignore that, because I feel as though sometimes, and I don't want to keep making, like, prefacing what I say or what I do whenever I do readings, because it's so much more spiritual realm type of things, that as I go down the rabbit hole, in quotes, it would feel as if I've lost people who are reading, like some people who are reading, who are watching the reading, because it's like, okay, tell us something about the real world. This is reality. The more you ignore what is going on about the spiritual realm, the less it is going to matter to you what the royals are doing that involves gaslighting you, and that involves gaslighting the world. So increasingly, my readings will make no sense to you, because if they're gaslighting the world and you choose to ignore the spiritual side of it, well, then what's going to happen is you're going to be part of the gaslighting. And so you're going to remain with that energy until you choose to wake up. Yeah. So from what I'm seeing, and the reason why the cards are bringing up, like, they've moved to fire energy. Sorry, not fire energy, air energy, air elements. So it means that since the element is now air, they've adopted it onto themselves. Any water readings that you do about the royals, Catherine, William, the other royals as well, you might get attacked a little bit more, or heavier energy than before, simply because they don't want anyone to draw them back. They're like, our lives before did not matter. We're literally living in a time period where there's been a transition, and there is a transit. Like, the William you're seeing now is not the William that is to come. Let me put it that way. So anything that you're witnessing is of the past. They want it to be of the past. And because obviously a lot of people co-sign with turning a blind eye to reality, those people are also being blinded. And then all they'll see the next time is like, or the next time that the shoe drops, right? The next time, like, the energy, the spiritual realm sort of drops, and the veil and things are exposed, like, you'll see William, the real William, the true William, with his air energy. Now, so the reason I mentioned fire, and like there's fire around this cat, like this card, right? A cat is harmless, more or less. But this is like a huge cat right in the middle of the card, heavy set, and surrounded, or like there's fire behind it. So you don't really know if it's the cat that's creating the fire, because it looks close enough, right? Like, it's not running afraid, and it even has yellow eyes. So it's as if the fire is burning through the cat's spirit, and the cat doesn't look like it's about to get off to run. So it looks very much comfortable in that state. So what it means is, whenever a person changes or transforms the being, it's like a shapeshifter, right? That's exactly what they've done. Shapeshifting. They've shapeshifted into this aerial being. Aerial. Yeah, aerial being, like into the skies. They are water beings, water spirits hanging out in the skies. So you can just imagine what that picture is about. It means whatever they say will be a lie, because it would not be within its right context. Because they themselves are not even intentionally, willingly, they themselves are not even in the right context. They're not in the right element. They are water, and they're wading themselves into air spirit. So that contradiction is big enough to create fire, a wildfire. But the fire is never going to be obvious. So again, why I was explaining about the spiritual realm and me focusing on it, and then people watching my readings, right? In that you're never going to understand it except you pay attention and you take seriously the fact that this is the spiritual realm, and that the spiritual realm has become much more dominant. Like, no matter whether or not, I don't know, William chooses to admit it or not. They'll never admit it. Number one, they'll not only will they never admit it, he will never admit it, but at the same time, he'll use your naivety and your willingness to turn a blind eye. He's gonna use that film, that veil, to veil himself in your dreams. So you wouldn't even have, like, you may not even have dreams about him, because we're at a point where the spiritual realm has opened up so much that if someone has a dream about another person, they'll know instantly what it means. They will. They may be confused here and there, but they'll know the general theme. He doesn't want that. So whatever blindness you have, that is the degree of the veil, what a veil is going to be that he'll put over your eyes, not just in the physical realm things, but spiritual realm things as well, like dreams. So you find yourself not even having dreams about William, but then you wake up and you find yourself liking William even more. That yeah, that's because your mind received a cleansing when you were sleeping. Yeah, because he went in the spiritual realm, he went into your dreams in your mind, your dreamland, and he turned your head. He would have paid you, for example, right? And then you wake up and you find yourself defending him, even when the facts are very obvious. Yeah. Yeah. So the contradiction of a water moving to air spirit, like when a creature, a person, a human, whatever, because obviously it's not just humans that exist, right? So whenever any creature take it upon themselves without the excuse of necessity, but rather willingness, that is not necessary. They create a storm that can trigger. It's like lighting a match. You've got water versus air spirit, air energy, air elements. Those things scratch together, and the more it scratches, in other words, the longer they stay in that element that is not theirs, the worse the fire is going to get. So one might wonder, how does water mingled with fire with air create fire? It doesn't, not on the basis of what you know, the knowledge you know about these two elements in the physical realm. We're not living in the physical realm anymore. This is very much spiritual. So the fire is going to burn. Hence, while the fires here and there, anything you can attribute to fire, it would be as a result, like the scratching. And because they are the nexus, it means everybody is going to get some semblance of like fire from fire underneath them until the person chooses to, let's say, like examine that fire, and then it will go. Because William doesn't want to be found out. So he's pretty much like he's putting fire under everybody's feet. And then it's those who do not pay attention to what he's doing, those are the ones who have the majority of that fire. Yeah, yeah. So kind of like this, which means whatever your energy is, sorry, whatever your element is, and everybody has an element. Again, when I say element, like everybody has an element inside of them. That is like our spiritual DNA. Again, the physical realm is merely a reflection of the spiritual realm. So whatever we have in the physical realm, it already originated in the spiritual. Therefore, if we have a DNA, if we have our own unique DNA in the physical realm, I mean, science tells us definitely science is a reflection of the unique DNA we have in the spiritual realm. We have spiritual DNA, every single one of us. For some people, the spiritual DNA could be a cowrie, just one. I say just, but that's, it one. For some, it could be two cowries and a card. Some, it could be two cowries and a card that has literally this drawing on it, which is why sometimes some people feel drawn to a certain card. They can't explain why, but they just feel drawn, like they have love for a certain card, like or a deck or whatever. Yeah, it's because of that. Because there's something in that card, or specifically that card itself, that is part of the DNA, the spiritual DNA, the element. Like, we say things, so just to show you how, like, embedded it is life, the spiritual, the physical. We have phrases. These phrases do not come out of nowhere, like the phrase that says I am in my element, i.e., like these idioms, right? These euphemisms. No, not a euphemism, but like when someone says I'm in my element, or you look like you're in your element, what do they mean by that? They mean you're comfortable, you are where you're supposed to be, which is exactly that. Our individual, our elements, the elements we have inside of us, that is what makes us who we are. So therefore, if William and Catherine's elements, the element they have inside of them is heavy water. Uh, Again, speaking of that, the water is not the water. Like the definition of water when it comes to spiritual elements and spiritual things, it is not as limited as it is in the physical side of things. The physical is incredibly limited, and that's of course on purpose. It's very intentional to blind people and to blindside them. The water that William and Catherine have, it's like water that is uh like this kind of water that it has to flow, number one, in order to operate. So in other words, they have to talk, they have to interact with people. So which is why, despite their shy nature, they seem to get along well when the just with contacts. Yeah, because that's their fire, or at least like the flow of the water, the type of water that they have. There's green water, there's red water. All this is water. Just like there are different planets and planets that we don't even know or recognize, and those planets have different moons and different suns and different color moons and different other things that we don't even have any idea about. The world is not limited. Talk less in the spiritual. So this is the water. The water needs to move, and in fact, the more the water moves, the less they feel stuck and the more ideas they have. Right. So again, which is why they don't really feel like leaving the royal family and why they'll persist no matter how many chains um they feel they have. Because it's like keep moving. The more contact, when I say them moving, it's essentially them having contacts, like networking in a sense. So now this is the water flowing, like the waterfall, and then the water kind of comes down and then it creates smoke, or at least, I mean, smoke, yeah. So it's like waterfall type of intensity, and waterfall water creates a lot of, it's like nature, it creates smoke around where it lands. That is exactly the water of William and Catherine. Now, they have, because it is impossible for an element to actually be changed in its entirety. They're only shedding their skin. It's like bleaching one skin. If you bleach your skin, it's only as white or white-ish as long as you keep applying it. If you stop applying it, well, guess what? Your skin isn't going to, it's not going to stay the way it is. You know, you'll either go back or get ruined the more. Either way, there's going to be a change. It's not going to be the consistent skin color that you've had as whilst you're applying the cream, right? So what it means is they can only pretend, but at the same time, it is also reality. So it's a duality. It's both pretense because they're just playing games. Like even they themselves, they surely know, they do know that the real elements cannot be changed, but it doesn't stop them from trying. And of course they have tried and they have succeeded in creating a similar reality. In other words, like an alternative life form, a Mandela effect. So in saying that, there are going to be a lot more Mandela effects coming because they've opened the portal for it. Yeah. And so in saying that as well, so the smoke, I beg your pardon. The smoke that gets created by what they've done, by what they do, the waterfall is still there. The waterfall still keeps flowing. And again, the fact that the waterfall still keeps flowing, the water is still there, it's still static where it is. That is one of the reasons why, if people are not actively trying to see what is happening spiritually, they actually can be convinced by this truth because it is a truth, but it's not the right truth, if that makes sense. Like it's a half truth, and a half truth might as well be a lie if the other side of the truth is harmful to you, if that makes sense. So it's like, tell me the whole truth, otherwise I would be in trouble, regardless of just like the half truth that I know, right? So it's like the waterfall still being there means people will be convinced of whatever is coming out of the mouths of these people, Catherine and William. They will be convinced because it sounds convincing, it is convincing. And the only reason it is convincing is because it's not a lie. They are a waterfall. So whenever they're saying, I want to work in housing, they mean, like, it comes across as if they mean it because they do mean it. It is that side of them that wants to work in housing. Now, obviously, if someone gives you a cup of water, the water can be like a whole cup full. If there's a drop of poison, well, the impact of that poison is not only a drop. It's a drop. It means a whole lot. It's poison the whole thing. You don't want to ruin yourself, yourself. as a result of that, right? Especially if your immune system is still weak. In other words, your immune system being that spirit man that was held captive. You were a captive audience to the shenanigans of Harry and Meghan for the longest time. You still haven't recovered. So you haven't built up your antibodies yet to withstand this half truth, the half truths coming from William and Catherine. And of course, they know that. So, what I'm trying to say is observe what they're saying and also what they're not saying, what they're unwilling to say. That what they're unwilling to say is an equal truth. It doesn't matter if there's no proof. Proof is not defined as only what a person says. Proof can also be defined. So redefine things. Otherwise, you can get messed up in their lies. And then, of course, because it's the nexus, and really, I'm saying this right now, William is not the type of, he's not who he will become. So whether or not you think you have any link or to the royal family or it doesn't concern you, it will, because he is hell bent on dominating the spiritual as well. So really, it's something important. These water being here, now they decide to move the smoke. When they move to transform themselves into an air energy or air element, it is the smoke that moves with them. It is not the waterfall. The waterfall is still there, but because a waterfall is heavier than smoke. And at the same time, it is the waterfall that it is the waterfall that creates the smoke, right? So as long as the waterfall is still there, the smoke can still be created in abundance. So they sift through the smoke, like they carry the smoke, some of the smoke, and they bring it into the air elements, and so on and so forth. So the translation into the physical is that they will look busy, but like I just said, that business is then transferring from water from the smoke to the air element. Now, not only will they look busy, but so saying that, you have to pay attention to what they are busy about. If their fans or their demons, what I've come to call them, try to convince you or force upon you that they're doing something, unlike Harry and Meghan, they're not lazy. Well, they're not lazy in what regard? Are they going into politics? Right? How can you have a family that has this much influence going into politics? Like, is that the world? Is that really the world you want to become? Where people are boldly telling you to your face, I have money. I mean, if you're willing to criticize presidents that have so much money and are willing to do anything they want, why not criticize the royals as well, who have this insane amount of influence financially, networks, contacts, and you don't want to say anything because their fans or their demons are telling you that there's nothing wrong with that. There absolutely is. And let's not draw back to the days when that wasn't possible, that um a royal or of a household would be able to do that, to tell people what to do in their finances, and no one will speak against it. That's the kind of world that he and the demons want to create. So you mustn't allow that to happen. Not everyone might watch my videos, but it doesn't matter. If you watching it, you're aware of it. I mean, in fact, again, I have so much faith and belief in the spiritual room. I truly believe that when I put out the videos, or as I put it, my voice travels in the realm of the spirit and beyond. So these people who hear my voice as well, like, they don't have to physically watch the videos, they would be able to tell. I mean, that's in fact one of the reasons why, even though I'm not the greatest YouTube or tarot reader, the royals will do anything to stop me, to stop any single person, no matter how insignificant or tiny that person is. The Cambridge and William royals, they would try to silence that person because their fans might like to say, who are you? You're insignificant. They don't even know you. Well, they don't need to know me in the physical for me to know that they've been trying to stop me, right? So it's things like because they know that each individual has power to puncture a hole in their plans. I know if you puncture a hole in a balloon, that balloon is no longer safe or as safe except the person tries to mend it. But the thing is, once you've punctured the hole, now it's up to them to take that action to prove you right or prove you wrong, right? And try to mend it. And if they mend it, then you're certain that, oh, so the balloon does exist. I was piercing this balloon on the basis of, if this balloon really exists, then this is the balloon that I'm I'm suspecting is going to bring me down. So if I'm if I'm sort of assuming that there's a balloon you've created that is going to bring me down, and then I pierce through that, but I pierce that balloon in the spiritual realm, and then all of a sudden I find yourself fixing that balloon in the form of trying to explain trying to explain questions I haven't even asked, right? Like the housing issue. I mean, I remember doing a reading on the roads a few weeks back, and I was criticizing the road, talking about, how they have all these castles and they're talking about loving the country, and yet they have all these the wealth, right? And all of that. I remember talking about that, and then a few weeks later, so like William is talking about, him wanting everyone to no longer be homeless and all that stuff. Like, is it now that you're talking about that? Why not? Why not bring that out when Harry and Meghan's marriage happened, when your marriage happened, and there was criticism, heavy criticism, and even boycotting of the royals, when people, homeless people, had to be moved in order for your wedding to happen. So it's like things like those that, and I'm not saying that I'm special. I don't need to say that, because to me, the concept of being special, it doesn't even matter. I am who I am. So it doesn't matter. But the things that, let's say, like William does, or like the royals do, it weighs heavily on my mind, precisely because they've tried to stop me. And I know that they try to stop people. Like anyone who doesn't see what they're doing, they or their fans, that person would need to look closer in the spiritual realm to see just how close the spirit of William is to them, and see if William's hand is not on their mouths, gagging them. Yeah, preventing them to speak. Even if you don't speak or you don't want to speak, if someone's hand is on your mouth, the person is equally preventing you from breathing properly. Like, so if you're not breathing properly, lots of loss of oxygen can cause a person to pass out or stop thinking properly, right? Because if your mind is occupied with getting oxygen, breath inside of you, i.e., surviving, then you're never going to want to think of anything else that is uncomfortable. Like, why would I think of that man that wants to heal poverty when I am over here struggling to breathe, right? Like your mind doesn't want to think like that, because it's you're in pain already. The less pain you're in, the better. So you wouldn't want to see anything bad in a man just trying to do good, right? But so you have to pay attention. Like you would think you're all the way over here, but you're not. You're right there with him. You're right there with them. It's just they pretend that you're not. They always make it as if there's a distance between you. Hence why they've moved onto the air elements, the elements of air, because they've noticed that people are not buying what they say. So if they're in the sky, it seems a lot more like, okay, lofty. Lofty, lofty ideas. Lofty ideas is like ideas that are very righteous, ideas that are very self-righteous, ideas that are very, very noble, very up there, not down there in the mud. And like water or like waterfall, it's closer to mud. Mud can be healing. So this is not even me, crapping on mud. Mud is actually healing. Mud creates life, right? So, but they don't like that, because they're at a stage where they just want a pristine image in order to gaslight. Like when people get to that level of wanting a pristine image and not recognizing that they can be at fault with certain things. Because if you notice, there's an underlining message that the Cambridges have been passing across lately, they and their fans or their demons, that the Cambridges can do no wrong. Because ask them, is there anything? I mean, even ask your own self. If you want to see just how close to you the Cambridges are spiritually, ask yourself, what have the Cambridges done wrong in the past 10 years? Just ask yourself that question. And you'll be shocked at the results, because why is nothing concrete? Like, why is nothing coming up? Because they've been trying to paint, and I'm not talking about like the Sussex squad doesn't count. The Sussex squad, of course, is going to find problems with the Cambridges. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, I would also equally obviously ask I've asked before anyway. I've asked the Sussex squad, like, you're attacking me, but Meghan, like, she's not perfect. So ask yourself the things that she's done wrong, and then realize that there are both sides to her that you can like and sides to her that you can criticize, and others also can criticize. So she isn't perfect. It's the same thing for the royals with William and Catherine. There's no reason, or there should be no reason why they should have a pristine image. Why? Okay, let's even say that the spiritual realm doesn't mind, right? People, anybody having a pristine image. Okay, it's fine. The not living according to my standards, which I totally understand, it's not my standards. But then, if they're living their life according to their own standards, why should I not live my life according to my standards? And my standards say, this man is not trustworthy. And my standards also say, I have the right to say it. I'm not threatening him. That's not my standard. But my standard is to speak on something that I find uncomfortable. Why shouldn't I live according to that standard? Why is it now wrong? Why is it now a stain? But when you're looking, when they do their own stuff, you say they're living according to their standards, so it doesn't matter what I think because that's them. Like, it's unequal, and it's that inequality that they've been sowing. Those are the seeds of inequality that they and those demons, their demons on social media or wherever, even in real life, have been sowing against people. That pristine image that they want to stick and force down people's throats. And since they've managed to force it down a lot of people's throats, you have to vomit it out. Yeah. Otherwise, you won't see what's coming. This man is changing. He's changing really literally before our very eyes, and you would not be ready. Like, it's not something that it's very much like with Meghan Markle. But again, even with Meghan Markle, and I said it before in previous readings, I think I might just open my previous readings on her and the royals. The things that have happened with Meghan, we haven't even seen a quarter. We haven't. So just think of that and then place yourself in the shoes of what might happen with William that is to come. You can't even imagine it, except you change things in your own head, because you can't change things with people. It's just not possible. It's just not, because his attacks is on individuals. So likewise, it's individuals who will have to stand up to him in this room of the spiritual. Yeah. It's not a group effort. Yeah. I'm gonna do further readings when then or if the need arises. I mean, it definitely will. I can sense that there's a lot of energies. But I'll just stop here for now.